Are we live? Are we live?
Yes, we are, baby.
We are live. We'll wait for people to come up. Thank you, producer Anna, who has been producing this show now. I don't know what episode it is. Put it in the chat. Whatever episode do you think it is? We've lost track because we're having so much fun. And welcome to another Friday Night Live. I've got the absolute wonderful Sean Floyd. I've got Mark. Your host. My name is Keshav or Kesh. And I was like 5 or 6. I love it, producer. We're doing so well. We don't need to count our episodes anymore. Amazing. Welcome to another episode. Hope you guys had a fantastic week. Without further delay, tonight's topic is going to be gentrification. Basically understanding the flow of money, the number one reason for capital growth and rental growth and price growth. Doesn't matter. It's not just Australia, whether you live in America, Canada, India, Pakistan, China, doesn't matter where you are. Gentrification is real. That is the only sole reason for capital growth, rental growth, and change in any city. Now, before I get into the topic, as usual, I'm going to check in with our lovely gentleman, my co-host, without whom I couldn't have done this. Sean, how's your week been?
Well, it's been chaotic, but I love it every single week. It's another day in paradise. Let's put it that way.
100%. I know behind the scenes for our viewers, someone who's watching it for the first time, welcome. We teach people how to invest in real estate and navigate the world of finance and investing. And if you are someone who's coming back, welcome home. Hit the subscribe button, the share button, leave us a comment, share it with other people that you think will benefit from this. Show us your love, show us your support.
We have to use that Cracker Week as well.
Yes, I'm going to ask him. I know real flames, some real heat, some real coordination. And if I had to describe what's happening behind the scenes, would be very, very similar to that. But it's an honor to be this busy and help so many wonderful people achieve their dreams. Now, after that big monologue, Mark, and a shameless plug, how's your week been?
It's okay.
Oh, come on.
It's very, very good. Let's just leave it very good, or otherwise known as cracker. Beauty, I like it.
I love it. I love it. So we've got Sean, Mark, and Kesh. Let's get into gentrification tonight. Thank you, Jack. Thank you for your support. Let's do a quick Friday cheers to all our viewers, to ourselves. This is how we keep in touch digitally. So instead of doing it indoors, we said, let's make it into a show and share it with you tonight. So guys, without further delay, thank you all for being. If you're watching this live, type live in the chat for me. If you're watching it on replay, type replay for me so that way we know who's watching it live, who's watching it replay. And if you've got a specific topic you want us to cover, something that is of interest to you, please feel free to put it in the chat. We will try our best. The idea of this platform is to empower people, to help people educate themselves, for us to share our days, our knowledge with you guys, and have a little bit of fun while doing it. So coming back to the topic of gentrification. Now, I've got a bit of a monologue, what I'm going to go through. I apologize, but it is super important for me to explain the concept of gentrification because people understand this very, very loosely. So the idea of gentrification when it comes to real estate is this. This is the actual definition if you Google it. The process whereby the character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in, improving housing, and attracting new business investment, often displacing its current inhabitants in the process. Okay? Gentrification is nothing but the process of wealthier people moving into a pocket of a suburb, pushing up the prices and pushing out the poorer people from that suburb. Okay? Now, what we're going to learn today is a process of gentrification because I know everyone here is either an aspiring investor or is an investor or an aspiring homeowner or is a homeowner. And this is very important to understand because tonight we're going to learn which side of gentrification you really want to be on and while places are gentrifying, it is very hard to identify them unless you know what you're looking for. So tonight, we're going to educate you. All three of us tonight are going to try our best to explain this complex concept within the next 45 minutes. We'll give it our best shot. And hopefully you can take some notes and look at yourselves and see where your properties sit. Are you on the right side of gentrification or are you on the wrong side? So let me talk about the wrong side. So what are the negatives about gentrification? Gentrification has both goods and bad. So the negative, let me do the bad news first. The negatives about gentrification is it basically pushes up property values so high and it brings in so many wealthy residents that attracts so many different businesses that the locals cannot afford to live there anymore. It pushes them out, right? People can't afford the local organic shop. There are no more cash converters, and you see Louis Vuitton and Apple. There's no more like a little, one of those painted, like those faded paint, good old Holden Commodores. You see C63 AMGs and BMWs and Range Rovers with kids and their mums and a $5,000 dog. You know, you don't see those staffies anymore. They're hella cute though, but that is the change you start to see when gentrification occurs. Now, the problem with that is gentrification forces people who cannot keep up with the economy, who cannot increase their income, or who have made bad investment choices to start living together in poorer suburbs. That then again takes them away from the good schools, from good infrastructure, from good connectivity, all those sort of things. Now, the advantages of gentrification is it creates people a lot of money. So if you have bought on the right side of gentrification, you will start to see substantial capital growth, substantial rental growth. You will start to see that come through. So it's not about getting rich. Gentrification done correctly can make you wealthy. That means your seventh generation would never have to work if you were on the right side of gentrification. Now, you guys must be thinking, Kesh, you've been blabbering on. Give me an example. The biggest example I can give you of gentrification, which would be obvious, is something that we experienced through this lockdown, which is very, very important, okay? And I'm going to get the boys in here. We'll have a little bit of a discussion about this, but people living in Bondi, and again, I know I might get some hate for this, within their 5-kilometer radius, had a beautiful beach, lovely cafes, their morning walks, their 1 hour that we were allowed to leave our homes, they could go to the beach. That was their way to go out. People living in the hills, maybe in Bella Vista, were going to these beautiful parks and greener areas and so on and so forth. And some people who were living in cooped up in little brick apartments in the middle of nowhere could barely go anywhere. So everyone was locked up. Everyone was allowed the same rules. Yet you saw such disparity, and you saw on social media people going, oh, it's unfair to like different suburbs, but how come people in Bondi can do this? Because guys, Bondi is at that level. If you like to go to the beach, if you want to be locked down in one of the most beautiful places on planet Earth, you got to have the money to do it. It is as simple as that. You walk down Bondi, you're going to see Rolls Royces. You're not going to see a cash converters. You're not going to see Lowe's. You're going to see organic restaurants, and people are eating all this expensive vegan pizza. So you can start to see that change. You're not going to see too many Domino's pizzas and so on and so forth. So you start to see this change. Now, that is the sole definition of gentrification. Now, all of you might be listening and going, Kesh, mate, if I had the money today to go spend $3 million in Bondi, it would not make sense, because even if I spend $3 million, I'd probably get a 2% yield on that property. And maybe I don't have the cash flow to wait for those properties to appreciate in the future. And I get that. The idea today is for us to have a discussion between Sean, Mark, myself, and you to say, where are the spots that we can buy today, understanding gentrification, that are the pre-Bella Vistas, the pre-Warungas, the pre-Double Bays, the pre-Potts Points. Where are these opportunities? Because they do exist. They absolutely do exist. If you haven't watched my previous episode, there was an episode where I showed you in the Hills District, there were properties selling for as little as $15,000 40 years ago. If I told that person, hey mate, your property is going to be worth $1.5 to $2 million today, he would have laughed in my face. but it has happened. And that is solely because of gentrification. Now, before I start the discussion, I've got a quick example so that our viewers can understand what that looks like. I'm just going to share my screen. If you can get that to work, producer Anna, that'll make a lot of help. So let me know when everyone can see this. So this is an example of a suburb called Macquarie Fields. It is in the southwest corridor. It's got a train station. It's got a select school. And this property sold on the 5th of June, 2021 for $725,000. Now, to give you context, this particular suburb is exactly 38 kilometers from Sydney CBD. Now, I have another example, which is another suburb called Kellyville, which is again 30. So I'm not showing you Bondi's or Double Bays and Neutral Bay and Mossman. No. It'll ring suburbs, right? This is another suburb which doesn't have a train station, did not have a select school when it got started, barely has bus stops, and now finally got the metro. I think it's been, 18 months? And this property, similar block, 3-1, sold for $1.43 million.
How's your drink going, Mark?
Oh, it's delicious. Kesh is gone.
He's gone, but he was talking about gentrification, which was great.
Yes, he was.
We've seen it all.
Makes a very good point there, where, same distance, same, let's say maybe 20 years ago, same demographic, but new trends, new infrastructure, new, I guess, new ways of life being implemented in certain different pockets, and there's a completely different picture, and if in fact it's double the price.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kesh.
Mate, I hit that out of the park. That it threw me out. It was just like bam.
You're a pro LA Dodger, Kesh. You just took a swing.
I swear to God. That was, mate, technology's been really kind to me this week. I got to sort this out, but
hey, I'm the sandwich now.
you are the sandwich. But guys, coming back to this is where gentrification is a great example. I've shown you two suburbs, 38 Ks away from the CBD. Those properties built are very similar in age, similar in style. One's not a McMansion. In fact, Kellyville didn't even have a train station until 12 months ago. It still doesn't. It's a metro, which hasn't finished as yet, right?
And people assume. So, great question. We've got a question from Suman Sharma. Chat, Anna, if you want to throw that out there. But how do you know 20 years ago? That's a very, very good question. We're going to actually touch on that, Suman. So, the thing is, people think that just because the metro came in, that's what pushed the prices up. Kellyville, Bella Vista was already a 1.5 and circa higher suburb before the metro came in. In fact, it was 2019. The year the metro actually officially launched was actually a down year for property. It peaked in 2017. And the idea is, how do you know 20 years ago? It's really simple, Suman. You have to look at a few micro factors as well as a few macro factors. The government already knew they were going to put the airport in there in Badgerys Creek about in the 80s, whereas it's actually come to life right now. So you just have to look at the planning protocols. You have to look at where the government's rezoning and what sort of population is actually moving into the area. So there's a few things that we'll get into in the future as well. But Kesh, I'll let you carry on.
100%. Okay. Now, the idea of gentrification is pretty important to the government. Okay. So the way the government thinks about it is this way. So no government, no developing government, especially like a country like Australia. I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, and I'm gonna drop some harsh facts. So if people get easily upset, I apologize in advance. I'm going to take you on a 100 to 200 year journey. Okay, I'm going to take you back. We're going to talk about the developing world, the developed world, so on and so forth. So if I really go back to the time where the Western world, where there were people like Columbus who were going around the world trying to take over, they were apparently finding places that people already lived in, but that's a whole different story.
The father of gentrification.
That was gentrification. So they're like, if you don't like your ways, you're having way too much time, too much fun here. And I think the British were just upset because they came from a cold country. They couldn't take it that someone was sitting by the beach just chilling, enjoying the great weather. But anyway, that conversation is for another day. But coming back to this, right? Let me explain to you how the world works from a pure capitalism way of doing it, right? So if I go back 100 years, 150, 200 years, if there's a historian here, you can correct me, give me exact dates, put it in the chat. I'd love to learn more. But let's just say there was a part of the world that had learned to organize people together to do agriculture, farming, and they would have called it unskilled labor. Some people called it slavery. Whichever side of the coin you're on, it is your story, which is fine. So then people got stolen from Africa, from India, from China, from Vietnam, and they were taken, traded like slaves to go and farm and do those sort of things. Once people started to frown on those things started to change. So the same countries went from farming to manufacturing. So they said, hey, mate, if I can have a person who doesn't ask questions, shows up every day, and keeps hammering away on the steel, we will have the Industrial Revolution. Again, wealthier countries with better quality education, and wealthy, again, is subjective here. If you've stolen money from someone and then you call yourself wealthy, that's a whole different conversation, but let's just call it that way, okay? They took money from people to establish their own economies and got the same people to come and work there as slave labor or working class or laborers or whatever it might be, working in the leather factory, working in the steel factory, working in the car factory. Then we saw America. We saw the steel revolution. We saw the automobile revolution where we had the Ford factories and the first car and all of this sort of stuff. I think Mercedes did the first car, whatever it might be. You guys get my gist. So the idea there was very simple. Can we set up an education system where people don't ask questions? They just come up, clock in, clock out, hammer away, they get a wage, and we keep them going. So that was the working class that built the economy. Now, this became a problem that we've seen in the last 25, 30 years. The idea for these developing countries to grow their economy, there's stages in life, Sean, Mark, we know this, right? You're a student, you're broke, you got less problems. Start making a little bit of money, you got big problems. Then you start making a lot of money, you got bigger problems. Then you want to save tax and you got rich people problems. Right, so it starts to change. Same thing with the economy. When they were manufacturing, they had labor, they could pay them for cheap. Now, what happened is some people within this labor union got sick of it. They're like, you know what, screw you, mate. Why am I sitting here hammering away? I can use my own people in my own country and manufacture the same thing at 1/3 or 1/5 the price. So eventually we saw this change. Again, this was global gentrification where larger countries such as Australia, such as America, manufacturing started to reduce. In fact, manufacturing has disappeared for us almost here. It's negligible. We've got assembly plants, if that, right? We started to outsourcing these things and buying stuff from overseas. Now, the Western world loves to wear $10 cotton on t-shirts and talk about polluting rivers. Well, if you want to make an Australian-made t-shirt and you want to pay someone $30 an hour plus super plus this plus that, you're paying $100 for a t-shirt, right? So this gentrification became a huge advantage. So smaller developing countries with cheaper labor started to manufacture so the Western economy grew. Now, the Western economy grew so far up that we had fair working rights, a fair wage, so on and so forth, and it created the birth of the large middle class, where the world sat for a good 20, 25 years, 30 years, in fact, which is now again starting to change. So during the Industrial Revolution, during the whole agriculture revolution, there were landlords, there were rich people, and there were slaves, right? Then it came to this factory side of things. There were employees and there were bosses. Then the financial market started, all of that started. This is all gentrification. Now the middle class realized that, dude, I'm getting ruled by this guy because he's got something called a education, a university degree. So he goes, you know what? I might be slaving away here, but I'm going to get my son or daughter to go to a college or a school or something to learn what my boss knows. Because education is our way out of poverty. So there was a whole education movement where countries like India, China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, so many other countries started to really double down on education. If I told my family as an Indian male at 14, I wanted to be an electrician, they would have thrown me out. They would have said, are you kidding? Because they don't understand an electrician can make more money than a doctor in Australia sometimes.
It would have been lights out.
Lights out, right? So they started to double down on education. Now, what happened there? because there was certain sector of society that started to double down on education, what people realized was, hey, because I'm an engineer, because I'm a doctor, because I'm a financial specialist, I'm only getting paid maybe $800, $1,000 a month. Instead, my dad's getting paid maybe $200 a month to do his job, or my mom is getting paid $200 to do their job, right? So what the Western country said is, how about we do this? How about we handpick the best brains that these guys are manufacturing internally, import them. This was called the brain drain. Import them into our country with a promise of a better life, equality, a higher wage, a better opportunity, and start bringing them in. So what started to happen is engineers. So then immigration policies. Now, if you're an illiterate person in India, Vietnam, China, who goes and works in the farms, you cannot migrate to Australia. In fact, you wouldn't even get a tourist visa because you have to show XYZ amount of funds in your bank. They don't want you to come and run away. What Australia wants is wealthy or educated. And if you're wealthy and educated, the different rules for you altogether, right? And the reason for this is very simple. And the reason I'm going around a circle here, but this is to answer the question for people who constantly ask me, do you think the market will keep going like this? Of course it will. The problem is, will you be able to keep up with it, or will you be pushed out with gentrification? And this is very important for us to understand. Now, what they have done, Australia and America and the Europe, whatever, you can see the CEO of Google, CEO of Microsoft, CEO of Coca-Cola, CEO of Macquarie Bank here. We have started to see a massive change that is coming through. That first, second generation immigrant who was working class, has businesses, is educated, has started to change. Now, Australia's game is very simple. Australia's game is very simple. If we can import wealthy people, educated people to build our economy, to build our country, and if we can pay our poor to disappear, and there's a massive thing. If you guys don't believe me, Google the amount of Australians who sell their home to move to Bali and Philippines and so on because they think they're living the lifestyle. No, they're not. They couldn't afford to sustain themselves. They didn't have a wealth plan. They literally got pushed out of the country because they were broke. They were victims to gentrification. So what are they saying? So for example, now we've seen properties like the Ponds, properties in Schofields, properties in Box Hill, properties in Marsden Park. If you go back 10 years ago, it was working class, man. It was middle class. Today, people paying $1.3, $1.5 million because where are you going to go? You're going to buy in Wahroonga, $4.5 million. You're going to buy in Double Bay, 6, 8, 7, 12. You're going to buy an apartment in Potts Point, $2 million. Where are you going to go? And why is the government allowing this to happen? They're going, oh, what is going to happen to property? Because they know if you're broke, someone's going to pay you to leave and they're going to move in. And that is the number one reason for gentrification. The government knows that a $9 trillion industry, a business, real estate, is something that can sustain this economy. This is our manufacturing. And if we can help people make money through this consistently year, they will not depend on the pension. Now, the problem here is, guys, is very simple. If you buy a property, and this is where people go wrong, it's not about cheap or expensive. It's like what stage of gentrification it's on, because there was a point you could have bought a house in Kellyville or in Balcombe Hills or in Five Dock for $800,000, $600,000, $700,000. And I'm not going back 100 years, less than a decade ago. 12, 13 years ago, you could have bought a house in Five Dock for $1 million and people thought that was crazy. But today, if you're on the Bay Run, that's $3-4 million. Because the guy who paid $3 million paid the other guy who can't afford to have his house anymore, saying, hey, mate, I'll give you $2 million. Push off, go to a cheaper suburb because I want to live here. I'm making money in this economy. And we're going to see more and more of this, guys, because a country like Australia is going to reward the knowledge worker, someone who's not going to be replaced by a machine. And we can see this. And if you don't believe me, the metro is automatic. There's no bus driver. There's no train driver in the metro. You walk into any Woolworths and Coles, there's auto checkout. You walk into Aldi, there's one dude. I still don't know why that is, but there's one dude.
It's so that you can practice speed.
You look at Elon Musk and Tesla in Dubai, by 2024, 2025, you will buy a Tesla. You will drive it to work. All day it'll drive itself like an Uber, earn you money and come back. right? So the world is changing. If you're going to be unskilled, you will not exist in this economy in the next 2 decades. And people who are skilled, and when I say skilled, it doesn't mean a university degree. No. Skilled to understand what's happening in the economy today, skilled to be relevant, skilled to pick up that higher income job. Because I'll tell you what, if you go back, the Ford factory manager in Adelaide would have been on $180,000 or 200 grand or 300 grand. The Ford factory doesn't exist anymore. The $300,000 job is a cybersecurity consultant working with Facebook or working with the government. So the $300,000 job exists, but it exists for a different person. And the guy who was earning $300,000 looking after manufacturing has now become worth zero because they've spent 30, 40 years of their life learning about an industry that doesn't exist in this country anymore. No matter how skilled or senior they were, they're not as relevant. And what I'm coming at is basically when we're looking at gentrification, I'm looking at how is money traveling. And to put it very simply, if I've paid $1 million for a house, $500,000 for a house, why will someone, I don't buy property for Sean and Mark. No. I'm buying properties for Mark's son or daughter to come and pay $3 or $4 million more in the same neighborhood than I did. And I want to figure out why would they do that? And today, we're going to have a discussion to see where we have experienced gentrification. Could be small things. Like, I live in Bella Vista. I go for a walk. I see bloody $8,000 dogs going out for a walk. You know what I mean? I'm seeing these French bulldogs and these Afghan hounds. I see people bringing their dogs in $200,000 SUVs. That, my friend, is gentrification. The next thing I'm going to see is the Shell's going to disappear and we're going to have electric charges.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a $2 shop anymore. We've got Italian restaurants by the lake. If you want to go out for dinner in Bondi, you're not having look, you're a backpacker and that's how you want to do it, fair enough. But the majority of residents who are living in Bondi, they don't flinch spending $300, $400, $500 at dinner. Because it's not about the meal, it's about the experience. And it is okay, what $500 is for them, for some people living maybe in Claymore, Eds, it's $50 for them, right? It's relative. So guys, where have you seen gentrification? Sean, Mark, you have explained some really crazy deals where people went into unregistered land and the valuations came in $300,000, $400,000, $500 above purchase price purely because of gentrification. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think going full circle, you've explained a really good theory there at the back end, which was talking about the effect of globalization hand in hand with gentrification, right? Now, globalization and gentrification almost really do go hand in hand because, yes, the house that someone's spending $1 million on today was someone 10 years ago was spending about $500,000, 600, 700, whatever it was in there. But gentrification has been crazy because we're looking at situations where there is a bit of a blueprint, there is a bit of a framework that can be followed where if you follow this framework well to your advantage, you can make money and you can stagnate as well. So what's an example of making money? So let's say, there's an area, there is a process of physical gentrification in the area. It could be in the form of things like roads. It could be in the form of things like, yes, a planned metro or a future planned metro. You're looking at a few other things, which is that land being globalized to become more accessible to more people for better use? So funnily enough, it's actually it's actually really interesting. I don't know the right word for it, but it's actually going against the whole principle of building wealth. Gentrification was actually built up initially to build affordable and sustainable communities initially. So think of it this way. If a suburb like the Northwest, let's pick a new suburb that's newly becoming gentrified right now. We'll talk about Box Hill, which is about, for those of you who don't know about Box Hill is about 48 minutes thereabouts, northwest of the Sydney CBD. What gentrification...
In the middle of nowhere, may I add, and it's gentrified.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere. And here's the best part about it. If this suburb did not become a target for affordable housing, it would have not become gentrified and it would have not allowed average Australians to build wealth on that ride of the property journey. So people would say, okay, cool, I need to buy a nice house. And the challenge with society is People want their cakes and they want to eat it too. So
Mhm.
right now, can the average working Australian family afford $500 a week in rent? Yeah, we can. I have an apartment right here I'm looking at for $500 a week in Bondi. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. Why won't a family rent that? Because the family likes the location of Bondi, but they want their cake and they want to eat it too. They want a nice 3-bedroom glazed out penthouse overlooking the water. And if they're not getting
Easy.
5-bedroom home with a sexy backyard that they can enjoy in, right? So, well, okay, cool. So if you want what you want from a cake perspective, you just have to pay the price. It's really simple. So gentrification, funnily enough, allowed people to have affordable homes, because if it wasn't for Box Hill being gentrified, people would have to still go 50 minutes away and buy $2 million worth of property, which was a really shitty old 4-bedroom home with a 3 or 4, 5-acre backyard. And what gentrification allowed was the fact that people could go and build their homes in that area for $400,000, $500,000, and $600,000 18 years ago. Now, today it's reached the point where to do the same home, yeah, you have to spend upwards of $1, upwards of $1 million, upwards of 1.2 for a decent home. But there is a process in time that takes it in there. So time along with gentrification, but funnily enough, the main aim for gentrification, which funnily enough gets defeated by its purpose, is actually affordable housing, which is stemmed by globalization, stemmed by building better communities. As an astute investor, you need to get in when it's affordable and be able to plan your exit out or ride the waves of growth when it has hit what's known as a saturation point. What are the suburbs with saturation points? Suburbs like your Bella Vista, suburbs like the Ponds, so forth, so on.
Mate, I've got a question here that I really want to ask you guys, and I think any of you can answer this. So you tell me, why would someone pay $1.1 million today to buy a 250-something block, barely any yard, to build a house in a place like Box Hill, and with no train station? I reckon, and correct me if I'm wrong, like the closest train station is, I don't know, Rouse Hill or one of them, or Kellyville, I don't know, one of those. And why would this person not be like, hey, am I being stupid? There's no train station. Why don't I go to Macquarie Fields and buy a 50-year-old or 30-year-old property with a nasty pink pot, dark interiors, smells like must, and on an 800 block, and live there? In fact, Macquarie's got a select school. Macquarie Fields got a select school. So why has this person said, I will live? Oh, forget that. Why do people buy 3-bedroom penthouses in the eastern suburbs overlooking the ocean for $4 million instead of saying, hey, mate, I'll go and buy 4 properties in Schofields? What is the difference between them two? And respectfully, the person who can buy a $3, $4 million, $5 million property, penthouse for shits and giggles, is not someone just off the street. They have runs on board, even if it's inheritance. Well done on keeping that. Someone did well. So why would someone go to Box Hill, pay $1.1 million, buy unregistered land, wait 12, 18, 20 months for that land, pay a premium, but not go and when Box Hill was nothing, and we know people who bought in Box Hill for $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, and they've made $300,000, $400,000 in less than 12 months. What was that? Why are people doing this? What is their thought process?
I think it's as simple as emotion. These are emotional decisions, all right? If you want to live in 45 kilometers outside of Sydney, and you know it's not really close to the certain amenities that you may or may not need, or it's not this or it's not that, but you still go out there, buy unregistered land, do what you want to do, there's an emotional decision behind that, because it doesn't sound like it's an investment decision. To me, it doesn't anyway.
But Mark,
think,
if enough people make those emotional decisions, that's what gentrification is, isn't it?
Correct. That's right. That's what I was going to allude to as well, is that gentrification is based on emotion, right? And, you know, when you look at Sydney now, we are, again, I've said it a couple of sessions, I'll say it again, we're an international city, okay? We're recognized internationally now, and it took a while to get there, but we are on the same level as New York, as London, Milan, Paris, whatever, right? Now, we're going to continue going that way. And we're going to continue being the best in the world, probably one of the best in the world, right? And when you look at it now, I'm not sure if you guys have been to Paris or not, but Paris is quite vast. It's huge, it's enormous, and there's obviously many different pockets around Paris where there's your poor suburbs, your really rich suburbs, so on, right? Yes, we've always had that here in Sydney, but now these suburbs serve different purposes as well. It's not as though some people are moving to Greater Western Sydney because I can't afford to live near the beach. They don't care about living near the beach. They don't want to live near the beach. They don't need to. They're living out there because it's around their certain community, maybe. It's giving them the right schooling that they know that their friends have taken their kids to, and their kids became a doctor, or whatever it was. And, it serves a purpose. Not everyone wants to shop at Louis Vuitton. Not everyone wants to shop at Gucci, right? Yeah, we've got these high-end stores, in select parts of Sydney. I'm not just talking the CBD. I'm talking, smaller hub cities or satellite cities within Sydney. But if we base things on the western suburbs, if you're a big team player when it comes to sport, things like that. You've grown up with a certain amount of boys your whole life out in Penrith or wherever it may be. Why do you want to all of a sudden live in Maroubra when all of your family and friends are in Penrith? It's a long bloody way to go every weekend to play sport, whatever it may be. But I guess what I'm really trying to say here is I like to talk about Parramatta as the city as well, right? We know that that's turning into the Sydney's second CBD, right? And it will by far surpass any other little satellite cities within Sydney as a central business district. But people don't need to live near cities anymore, CBDs anymore, right? Even living near Parramatta, let's say you live in the western suburbs, majority of people that are living in that northwest corridor, they're well, at least from clients that we deal with, a lot of their head offices are in either Macquarie Park or Bella Vista.
Yeah.
So what do they care about the southwest of Sydney? Or what do they care about the east of Sydney? They've got no business there. They've probably got no, no network there that they really, hang out with on a week-to-week basis. Everything they want from an emotional perspective, at the end of the day in life, that's what life is about, right? Experiences, emotion, We won't go into some
money.
Mate, but you're right. I can tell you of examples of family friends, close friends, colleagues who work within the area, surgeons making great plastic surgeons, cardiothoracic surgeons, that because they're working long hours and it's a very stressful job, and work-life balance and spending time with family is very important. These guys are literally going, hey, I work at Norwest Private. I can buy a $3 million home or a $4 million home. I'll go to Dural, Kenthurst, Bella Vista, wherever it is, because I want to be at work and home very quickly. Someone who works in Randwick or in Bondi, now it's become very fractional, but what's very interesting is this, right? In fact, I was taking a client through this. There's certain pockets of south of Sydney, west of Sydney, north of Sydney, east of Sydney, which has had the same percentile growth. So say, for example, $1 million property grew by 50% versus a $500,000 property grew by 50 or 70, 80%. And there's a sweet spot. There's a sweet spot of affordability, and I'll explain that to you. Now, again, we've been talking about the Northwest Corridor and so on and so forth. There's a point where it gets a little bit of silly, and Sean and I, we spoke about this, Mark, where he asked, hey, where would you live, right? Now, if you said to me today to spend $3.5–4 million in Bella Vista, I live there. Like, I get it. It's really nice. I love the area. I would really start to think, I'd be like, hey, I don't know. If I'm spending so much money, maybe I'll look at something else. You know what I mean? So there's a point where this gentrification really works. And there's a portion of gentrification where it's quite accelerated. So you see a $600,000 property become $1 million, 1.5. And then we reach an affordability cap. And that affordability cap stays there for many, many years. And that's called the property cycle. So as much as we see a massive growth, and memories are really short, there were some idiots who predicted a 40% crash before we had the biggest boom in history. God bless their soul. And I know for a fact there'll be another idiot on 60 Minutes saying, is it too? late, right? We're one of those. we know those. But the question here is I'm not asking people to buy $3, $4, $5 million homes. The question here is, how do you identify gentrification? How do you pick it at a point where it is affordable? The yield, and Sean, you and I talk about this so many times, where the yield variation is at that perfect point, right? I don't have time today, otherwise I've taken you through a masterclass, something I take my clients through to really pinpoint this sort of stuff. And there are a couple of stages of gentrification that people can talk about, right? And I'm going to talk about that right now, and we'll go through that. So the first stage of gentrification is, let's just call it absolutely disorganized. It is grassroots level. It is absolute beginning. So think of a place where there are tribal groups, the government's not included, or a village where there's one old guy in the village who controls. He's the law. You stole. He decides. There's no courts. There's no nothing, right? So that's stage one. So Columbus would have found a lot of shit like that. He's like, mate, this is rough. Let me fix this, right? Whatever his definition of fixing was, it was. but whatever that was, right? So that is grassroots level. That is real beginning, unorganized. That's stage one of gentrification, right? Like a tribal little town. Today's version of that wouldn't be New York, Manhattan, wouldn't be Sydney, Macquarie Street. It would be maybe a tribe in Amazon, or a very tiny little village somewhere, right? Where there's no internet, no electricity, so on and so forth. Step two for gentrification is where a little bit of there's either a committee or a government that comes in. There's a little bit of planning. People are not chopping off arms and legs because someone lied and stole. There's the law. You know, there's some sort of organizing. There's a little shot. People, they've moved away from the barter system. Hey, you've got chicken, I've got rice. Let's switch. We've moved away from that. That's stage two. So stage one, stage two, both very risky. That's as good as going in the middle of Australia and saying, hey, I'll buy 100 acres for 10 grand. And then I'll reach out to Elon Musk on Twitter and change this into the next. Hey, and it could work. You could turn $10,000 into $1 gazillion. All the best, right? That is, for me personally, as an investor, that's too risky. It's too early. Things can go either way. It's like if 20 years ago, if I went and bought, I don't know, in some weird, like Broken Hill, if I went and bought 5 acres, I wouldn't be really cheering right now, right? But if I bought 5 acres in Dural, I'd be a very happy man. Very, very happy man. So that is, stage two is a little bit too early. Stage three gets really interesting. So stage three is where you start to see, and guys, this is very important when it comes to behavioral economics. So, and I'm gonna jump in here and explain that to you. I love cars. For any viewer who knows, I absolutely love cars. Sean loves cars. Mark loves cars. We love watches. We like all these things that waste our money. We talk about them. We don't waste our money on them. We talk about them. They're on our walls. Honestly, they're a business expense. Different story. All the accountants saying fringe benefits. But let's talk about this for a second. And I will give you Mercedes as an example. Mercedes, for the longest time, until the last 5-7 years, was predominantly making the S-Class, which is maybe and for you car fanatics out there, depends on what S-Class you get, but from the S65 AMG or the S600 Maybach to like an S350 diesel or whatever, there is new version of it, right? I think there's a new electric version as well. They go for anywhere between $180,000 all the way up to $400,000, $500,000. Then the Rolls Royces and so on. But I want to talk about Mercedes here for a second, and this is perfect gentrification. Mercedes now produces a vehicle like the A-Class, which is a little hatchback, but it's still 50 or 60 grand. Now, respectfully, I can go get a Volkswagen Polo, which is a German vehicle, for 15, 20 grand. I don't know, mate. Like, I've not looked at cars in that segment, but correct me if I'm wrong, right? You can buy a little Hyundai, I don't know, they're called i10, i20, whatever it's called, right? For lesser money. But there's a customer out there who goes, I'm not going to go buy 3 little, I don't know, Hyundai i20s or a Golf, whatever. I want to go buy an A-Class, A200 or A180, whatever it might be. I want the Apple CarPlay. I want the Mercedes-Benz logo. And that's become a huge factor where we've discussed this, where I am someone, I I don't want to wear a G-Shock. Like I've got an Apple Watch, I've got a few luxury watch. I will wait 10 years. And don't get me wrong, like some of you watch guys will kill me. A Timex or a G-Shock or Rolex is going to show you the same time. It's not about the watch and showing time. It's not about the functionality. It's what it says. And Boxhill is a very good representation of that, because I rather wait 10 years and buy a watch that represents something that is important to me, or buy a property in an area. And that's what is the 3-bedroom house in Bondi versus buying 4 properties in Mount Druitt, for example. Is that how does it make you feel? And I'll tell you something, we are intrinsic need as a human being. And this is very important as an investor, because you are not all this micro vacancy rate, bullshit. It all comes down to gentrification. Why is someone going to pay? You can go down to Kmart and buy a handbag for $10. Why do people buy $8,500 handbags? In fact, the owner of Louis Vuitton is richer than Amazon, Jeff Bezos. I think it would happen like 2 months ago, right? He went up to #1 selling handbags and champagne. Society has changed. People want the stone bench top. Me personally, I'd rather rent a luxurious, modern, I'll pay $800 a week for an apartment, 3-bedroom apartment with views, than live in a shit house in property that is falling apart in say Bradbury or in Macquarie. Because you know what? It matters, because in Sydney, in Australia, there's a big thing. Not only here. If you haven't noticed this ever, when you meet someone that you don't know that well, they always ask you, where do you live? And if you choke, you're uncomfortable about where you live. And that's not about where you live. It is a deeper rooted feeling of how that makes you feel. It makes you feel less. And whether you feel it or not, and you go, oh, mate, I don't care. I love how I live. Great. Right? And that's what shows the Box Hill effect. Someone was willing to say, I live in Box Hill, and someone goes, oh, where's that? Oh, in the Hills Shire.
Mm.
That was it. That was literally it. People have asked me for fundamentals and vacant. Oh, mate, no. This is a feeling. This is a feeling.
And just wait till Hillshire Council takes Box Hill out of its list.
Mate, that'll be upsetting.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have shared that. Sorry.
No, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, there was a reason. There was this particular customer. And the funny thing today in society is these are the people who have money. Whether you think it's superficial, whether you think it's materialistic, well, I don't care what you think about it. It's true. It's happening. All right? It is absolutely happening. Look at Instagram as the perfect example. No one shows you their sucky days. No one. Like, mate, I'm not posting on Instagram saying, shit, I've had an 18-hour day. No. You see me post up at a bar, having a big smile, like life's beautiful. No, it's not. That's not reality. But people want this perception. They're willing to pay. Let's look at first-class tickets. You will get on the plane at the same time as the other sucker flying like a peasant in economy. But yet you will pay $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 just to hear the fact, business class passengers, first class passengers, thank you, make your way first. And then you're waiting there like in the line.
You really should be there.
And you're sitting there going, shit, man. And this guy's not, mate, someone's just paying those sort of dollars. Either's really good with their points on the ANZ card. Shout out, give me a shout out. Come on, ANZ sponsor this. With their Qantas points, or they actually care about how they travel, right? There is an economy for it, especially when it comes to real estate, especially when it comes to safety of their family, especially when it comes to perception. And if enough people think a certain way, like you said, Mark, so rightly, you're going to see that capital growth. So when I'm buying real estate in my gold category, not in my check, not in my deleverage, in my gold category of properties where I'm focusing on capital growth, I'm looking at places where there's going to be largely educated owner occupiers who have white-collar jobs, or ultra-rich people who will buy a holiday home, i.e. Sunshine Coast, Byron Bay, Central Coast. People paying $3 million to live on the water because they couldn't spend 10. And they go, stuff the West. I'd rather live in Central Coast on the water than in Wentworthville, right? And again, this is not a reflection of where you live. And we can see that. Sean, again, with the asset selection, and Mark, you pointed this out, people in the last 12 months, 18 months have lost anywhere between $45,000, I've seen up to $100,000 on their apartments in Harris Park, in Parramatta.
Mm.
In the biggest boom, because people who wanted to spend that sort of money said, you know what? Yeah, Parramatta is right. It is going to be the next CBD, no questions asked. But for my family, for the way I like to live, I want a little home theater. I don't care if it's on a little 20 square home. I want a double car garage. And you got to understand, the largest purchaser right now is usually a first or second generation immigrant. They have left their family, friends, that this is their opportunity to stabilize themselves. When they buy their first home, it's just not about what is going to be it is about how does that place make them feel? You guys don't understand. This is when you leave your home, your parents, everything you've known, and you move to a strange country, especially with your family, all you're trying to look for is that home again. And the closest thing that you find, your home as a feeling and that aspiration of what you would have imagined. And you find that middle ground of a version of that. And that's what explains the Northwest or the South, wherever property is boomed, and there have been certain pockets where you go into the Southwest of Sydney, mate. Let's talk about it. Why have people gone to Gledswood Hills and Harrington Park, no train station, no hospital, and properties in I don't know, Ambervale, which is right next to Campbelltown Hospital, have barely moved a tick. They've had no rental growth. So if hospitals and train stations and shopping centers made all the growth, you're kidding yourself, mate. You're living in 1997. What is the texture? How does it make you feel? And you know what? There is a way to study this. It is an economic nudge that goes down to behavioral economics, that goes, and if you can hack this, that's what all these massive companies have done. Uber, Facebook, Airbnb, Tesla, it is this new association. We have an inherent need to be part of a tribe. That's why in jail, one of the harshest punishments is solitary confinement, when you're not part of anything. That's why people have these groups, Facebook groups. You want to identify with something, right? I want to identify with investors and real estate investors, because that's my calling. You know, if someone told me a fairy tale about how the government should feed us for free, I'd be like, mate, you're full of shit. Maybe they should, I don't know, but I don't identify with that. That is not who I am. So when we talk about gentrification, yes, our macroeconomic factors important, infrastructure, employment, 100% it is. But I want to know what sort of infrastructure, what sort of people is it going to attract? What are those people going to want to live in? Look at the 5G rollout. Even right now, through COVID, look at the news, look at the treatment of, say, the western suburbs, certain pockets of the western suburbs. Mate, we can bitch, moan, and cry about it, no problem, right? But the reality is that was part of their 5-kilometer radius. The way treatments will happen, I'll leave that to people. You can be the judge of that. But I'm just saying, people made a decision. They bought in places. And think about this. When gentrification's principle, the capital growth principle, rental growth principle is based on the fact that rich people want to move in. If you had all the money in the world, where would you actually live? And what would make that place special? And like you said, Mark, you said it so rightly. Some people will pay a premium to live near family. Some people will pay a premium to live near a hospital. Some people will pay a premium to live near a school. Some people will pay a premium to live near a beach. There's no one way. But the common thing has to be the people who are paying that premium should be able to continue to earn money in the economy, should be part of the knowledge economy, because that's where Australia is at as an economy. Now, if you're in China or if you're in India, you'd be really wealthy if you're in manufacturing, because you're an industrialist. So I would want to hang out with people who are in manufacturing. I don't want to hang out with people who work in warehouses and manufacturing here, because that is a dying industry. I don't want to be buying real estate in those areas. Again, I'm not being classist or anything. If I had to hedge a bet on 500 engineers, 500 lawyers, 500 doctors, 500 financial strategists, 500 logistics kings moving in. 100%. I don't want to buy in suburbs where someone's stacking shelves, because I know for a fact in the next 10 years, that dude will not be able to pay me $50 more in rent. And the guy who will not move there. So it's not about new property or old property or house versus apartment. No. Where is gentrification occurring? Where are you going to see capital growth? Can you nail the stage 3 to stage 6, stage 7, the sweet spot where you have the maximum growth, especially for someone who's looking to make equity quick to accelerate their growth? You got to nail this concept. Now, on that note, with your permission, guys, is there anything else you guys want to add? Can we wrap it up? Up to you.
I'm waiting for Sean's rapid fire questions.
Put him on the spot.
Get excited. All right, ladies and gentlemen, rapid round robin time. Before we do rapid round robin, Kesh, I think you have something really awesome to plug on your end.
Oh, yes. You know what? Can I be honest? I love doing my plugs. All my life, I wanted to be like a radio host sort of guy, or like on Top Gear, and I wanted to do like shameless sponsorships. Shameless, just out there. But on the 28th of September, this is not shameless, by the way. I love it. I own it. It is my heart, soul, my passion. On the 28th of September, I am doing a masterclass where I'm taking people through a step-by-step process on investing. So if you're a beginner, if you are advanced, whatever stage you're on, if you're interested in investing, you want to understand more about the real estate game, or you just thought the gentrification thing was a fairy tale, I don't care. Join me there, ask questions, make yourself a tea, and we can go through it together. 28th of September, the ultimate property investment webinar by yours truly, the host of Ep10. Anna, is that good? Producer Anna. We got a little echo. I think right at 1 hour, something happens to the computer and it just starts echoing. It just tells us like, piss off.
Well, the good news is, guys, your masterclass is ready to rock and roll now. There is another one, which is a awesome high growth asset selection masterclass that you can find already on demand right here. Enjoy it, because I'd love to hear feedback. And guess what? We talk about gentrification on there. And right after that, if you sign up, I'll help you find your best spots for gentrification. Don't forget to sign up and pay now just to get access to it. What are you waiting for? We
should do one of those ones. You know, have you seen those late night, those telly ones where people go like, you know what? I've got this amazing bed for you. You lie down, your back pain's gone. This mattress was designed by NASA engineers. I'll tell you what, you call me in the next 15 minutes. I'm going to give you a free bed. And guess what? I'm going to throw in the best bamboo pillow you've ever seen. It's going to change your life. 30-day money back guarantee. You know what? I should just do one of them just for fun. I don't care. I don't know.
Definitely do an infomercial. That'll be good. See, just for a quick set of rapid round robins. All right, ladies and gentlemen and ladies and Mark and Kesh, what is your favorite sporting team of all time? Mark, go.
Very hard.
Very, very hard one, yeah. It depends what sport, but I'm just going to go with the Heart Liverpool Football Club. Scouser through and through.
Wait, this is going to be really hard. So I would.
So wait, Mark, was yours Liverpool? So you'll never walk alone.
I will never, ever.
You never walk alone. Excellent. That's great. And producer Anna has chimed in as well. Producer Anna's favorite team is the All Blacks, the Kiwi All Blacks. Well done, producer Anna. Cashman, what's it for you?
Mate, I'm going to stick to my roots, like my fundamental roots. I'm going to go cricket. I'm going to say the Indian cricket team. You know what? I struggle between the Indian and Australian cricket team, to be honest. If it's India versus Australia, I go India every single time. India versus anyone, I'll go India every single time. Australia versus anyone else. Australia all the time, yep. Every single time. I love cricket. My favorite routine is to go watch it, get some fireballs, some beers. I don't know. Just it's the best. Not test, I don't have the patience for it, but anything else, any other format does for me.
This is a 2020 guy.
Oh, mate,
Explosive.
100%. Quick, fast and furious. Mate, we're time poor, bro. We got to get it in real quick.
And just one more. So who is your favorite athlete of all time and why, Mark?
Matt Shervington. No, I'm joking. It really is Michael Jordan. To be fair, yeah, look, I haven't been a huge fan. I can't tell you everything about him like you probably could because you're very well experienced with MJ. But it's just since a kid was a big Chicago Bulls fan, but in and out. So, but Michael Jordan, man, he's King Kong.
Cashman. Who's it for you? Nice one, Mark. I love that.
Mate, I have a little bit of a different one here. Even though I watch cricket and I picked a cricket team, I can't pick between. So I'll go real mainstream here. It has to be between Muhammad Ali for a completely different reason. It's not about boxing or it's just the mindset. It is just that resilient mindset, right? I will get in there, I will execute. And as an investor, as an individual, in society, that's what you need. You need certainty. You got to bet on yourself. One thing I learned very, very early on is never let another man or a woman or a person or a politician decide your future. You are solely in control. And Muhammad Ali, like a lot of his stuff is there. Big fan of Steve Jobs. I know he's not an athlete, but going back to an athlete, I'll go Dwayne Johnson.
Nice.
Mate, love The Rock. Like, that is my favorite thing. You do WWE and then you become a famous actor. That is me, mate. I'll do this and then infomercials.
Excellent. Nice work.
And what about Sean's? Where are your answers?
Sean, come on.
Favorite sporting team of all time is the Los Angeles Lakers. And favorite, the LA Lakers.
We need to do floor seats. When Auntie Gladys lets us out and Uncle Scott says you can get on a plane, we got to do it. Let's do it.
It's all right. That means we're going to help 400 investors this year.
No problem. We'll sit next to Drake. What up?
And then favorite athlete of all times, it's just the two of them. I see them as twin flames. Twin flames is actually part of the whole LGBTIQ map now anyway. But twin flames, is Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. So I can't select between one of them because Kobe's someone who I'd grown up enjoying talents for a very long time. And Michael Jordan, obviously, from the mindset, the killer mentality, and the ability to carry a team through thick and thin. So that's me over there.
Mate, that's awesome. Yeah, good picks. Gentlemen, are we ready to say good night to our Friday Night Light viewers? Did I just stutter? Thank you very much for people watching. Sean, Mark, producer Anna, thank you. Thank you so much for making this real. Thank you for doing it consistently. Thank you for educating our clients. I'm so grateful for the team. I'm so grateful for the viewers. Thank you all. Hope you got some value out of Friday Night Live. We covered gentrification. Again, 28th of September, I am doing a masterclass. If you're interested, put it in the comments. I am interested. And someone from the team will reach out. Make sure you have a link. I don't know how the back end works. We just make producer Anna and Ryan make it happen. Again, thank you very much. This is a wrap up. Friday Night Live. Stay safe, stay good, and hopefully we can all see each other. I'd love to do one in live, mate. Just sit down stage, people. Let's do it. I promise I'll not sell you a mattress again. Good night. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you next Friday.
Ciao.
Bye for now. Now we do the awkward smiling.